and she's done it! Jessica Butterknife! The 4-year-old from White Plains has done it!
1995. It was a huge year for me. It's the year I started my 8-year run as the most dominant female rope jumper on the planet. Still feels good to say.
The world had never even heard of speed jumping before. The technology just simply didn't exist.
It was like roping with an Olympian weightlifter. She had a mustache. There's no way she wasn't on steroids. And I'm pretty sure cocaine, too.
So here comes this 4-year-old out of Nebraska, of all places, and we all fell in love. And I guess we all fell in love with roping again.
Seriously, nobody else can see that this wasn't a 4-year-old girl, but a full-grown man.
When Jessica sprained her wrist in the 5th set, my heart sank.
Oh, the Bretz can't jump! She's down!
Right there! It's a wig! He's wearing a wig.
I told the doctor. I looked him right in his eye. I said, you tape this. You tape it right now. I'm not coming out. I'm staying in, and I can't let it go.
All legends have a beginning. Slice like a knife, the Jessica Butterknife story.
He's wearing a wig!
I don't know a lot about sports, but I can drink a lot of beer.
My motto is simple. C's get degrees.
Need a long, inappropriate hug? I'm your man.
I think I'm smarter than you.
Because I probably am.
Howard Coward for box score. Hello and welcome to the Box Score. I'm Brock in Los Angeles. They are the Danettes in Milford, Connecticut. Guys, the show is chock full of snark and we love it. The major topic of conversation today was who is the Poor Sportsman of the Year. Seton, you're a fair play guy. Who gets your vote for Poor Sportsman of the Year?
Aside from Bob Kravitz, or Roger Goodell,
Jessica,
or anyone related to the negative side of Deflategate. I don't know.
I would say if you didn't say Roger Goodell somewhere in there, I would have been disappointed in you. You literally.
No, I'm actually mad because I meant to get Kravitz and Goodell in on the show today and take a shot at them, and then we moved on and then never really got back to it, and then I just forgot. Damn, I really wanted to nail that.
I agree with Seton on Goodell. You know, I know people are gonna say, "Oh, of course you're gonna say Goodell," but the guy makes $40 million, and did he do well for his league this year? If you had to say that honestly, I don't think anyone would say yes. I mean, I know he.
Except the 32 owners who were pocketing all that cash.
I would assume that almost any commissioner would do a good job getting those deals done, and those deals are almost automated these days. So I bet those guys would still be rich, but I don't think anyone's done. I don't know. Under his watch, the NFL has taken a lot of heat. Now, it doesn't affect ratings, so I guess it doesn't matter, but I wouldn't want to have the year he had.
Well, that being said, though, the 32 owners clearly don't agree with you.
No, they don't agree with the bottom line. Now, let's say he was doing a fantastic job and everything went well and he was not making the money. He'd be fired. So I'm just saying from a PR standpoint, he himself, I think, had made a lot of bad decisions. Well, not financially.
Well, McLovin, earlier this week, I asked you who the all-time sportsman would be. So let's go all-time here. Who's the all-time poor sportsman?
Oh, God. I was posed this before, and the name that keeps popping into my mind is O.J. Simpson. I'm just going to say it. He's the ultimate sports evil, but that doesn't really fit.
What do you do bad on the field or around the game?
To me, like, he's the face of every.
Double murderer.
Well, okay, all right. No, I know. First of all, I don't want to make light of real world crimes and sports. But if you think of somebody, sports is about elevating everything that's good about mankind to the upper echelon. And O.J. Simpson was all that and more. He was the first commercialized athlete. And then he did a complete 180 and destroyed all that. To me, he would never be Sportsman of the Year. Probably not the best choice because it's not about sportsmanship necessarily, but I'm trying to think of no other names jumped in my mind.
See, I immediately went to John McEnroe. He's the most classic crybaby, poor sport that I can think of. I mean, he's known more for complaining about.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's the sportsmanship definition of it. Yeah. But sportsman isn't just about sportsmanship. You know, Serena's not particularly great on the court. I think she argues a lot.
First thing I pictured was Mike Tyson with double ear biting of Evander Holyfield.
That's frowned upon.
Very good. You really shouldn't be doing that once you're frustrated and you realize you're not going to win.
Ear. It's frowned upon.
Then being warned
what about
the second time.
Barry Bonds? Or face of PED cheating? Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
All-timer.
How about, Paulie, just dirty players like Conrad Dobler or maybe Ty Cobb? Would they fit it?
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess, but a lot of those guys get celebrated in the moment. You know, depending, it's a really close line whether you're celebrated for being, like, if I'm a Patriots fan, I probably loved Rodney Harrison, man, when he played. I bet I loved him. One of my favorite players growing up was a guy named Doug Plank for the Bears. And he was big at cheap shots, but as a kid, I guess I didn't care that much. I probably would think a little bit differently now that I'm an adult, but those cheap shot guys are disliked by a lot of people and also beloved by a lot of people.
In Philadelphia, we love the cheap.
Andre
Waters,
yeah.
Wes Hopkins,
yeah.
All those guys. We love the cheap shot guys. Remember Buddy Ryan had...
Golick.
Yeah, Buddy Ryan. Remember he put a bounty out on the kicker? That was in the old days, in the 80s, when you could actually have fun in the NFL without the media yelling about everything.
$1,000 for breaking a guy's leg.
Buddy Ryan went after the kicker. That was the most awesome thing. And now everybody's
get a censure letter, and Sean Payton maybe was aware of it and got a year off and a $7 million loss of salary.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, there were some verbal cheap shots today as you guys went after each other for OCD in the man cave. By definition, obsessive-compulsive disorder is excessive thoughts that lead to repetitive behaviors. Paulie, who does this best describe in the man cave?
Best describe. You know, I don't want to throw it around too flippantly, even though we did a little bit. I think we all have it to some point. There's some like rituals and habits that make us uncomfortable. Fritzy, I think, has things that he's really comfortable with and will never change. And I don't know if that's OCD by definition. He's really reluctant to change because he's comfortable with certain things. I would say Fritzy makes 3 rights to make a left, because if he knows he can make 3 rights and get there, he'd rather do that to make a left. Dan, I don't know if this is OCD either, but Dan is more like kind of jumpy in the mornings where he has to move stuff around the set, which is a good thing because it changes the set all the time. But it's also like, sometimes it seems like he cannot stop doing it.
Seaton, what is the OCDest Dan has ever gotten?
Oh, man. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like just a morning daily ritual thing. Which actually makes traveling and doing shows on the road so difficult because Dan sits down in a new environment that he's not comfortable with, and he's like, oh, I gotta figure out, like, where's the printer work? Is this gonna be?
Where Starbucks
he sits down and gets his mouse pad, he like checks that and does all this stuff, and so that could usually make it a little tricky. Other than making sure that his stuff works, you just have to know where Starbucks is, which is a simple Google search. And then, you know when he got really upset though? Remember when the Bobby Knight doll broke and we left it on the ground? The Bobby Knight doll broke, its head split right open, and we left it on the ground as like, oh, we're gonna make a bid out of this or whatever. And Dan came in the next day and was like, guys, what the hell is this? Like, he was pissed because he thought that we were just fooling around and knocked it over, and then like nobody bothered to pick it up or whatever. And he was like, dude, what the hell is going on here? And we're like, oh, we were just kidding. It's supposed to be funny.
And it was not an accident. We chose to leave the destroyed doll's carcass out in the middle of the room so Dan could be surprised by it for the next day, because that's producing.
And he probably thought it was a collector's item that was like the only one in the world, even though
no, there were 6 left.
You were able to get your hands on it.
Thank God, there were 6
It was nice
left.
that the gentleman gave us one of a 5 remaining on
Only
Earth.
Bobby Knight doll.
Fritzy sounds guilty there. Fritzy, your notebook is legendary. What is the closest call you've ever had with that notebook getting destroyed or spilled on?
Yeah, there have been a couple times at home where one of the kids spilled something and it got very close to the notebook. There was another time where I was my own worst enemy. I had put it down for a moment, and then I went to make a call or wherever I went, and then I just forgot for a moment where I put it and went into a complete panic. But I always have it close enough to me, whether that's fortunately or unfortunately, walking around with my bag. And
Does this bother you?
To know where everything is. I mean, I don't love it, but if he's just gently holding it.
Which bothers you? Me holding it, or how many blank spaces there are Friday, Monday?
Why don't you have a nice long sip of hot scalding coffee?
I really would like us to go to break here if we can.
Okay, we will do
I'll
that.
put it in the bathroom.
We will do that. It's not fun. It's not funny, just like Billy Crystal said. All right, coming up, we are talking about a major upgrade in careers. No, put it down, please. Oh my God. All right, hey, you want to upgrade your truck? The Ram 1500 Eco Diesel, yeah, baby. Climbing hills, hauling trailers, and you can put the notebook in the back seat safely away from the passengers, though it does have cup holders. You want to know more about the truck? Get more facts at ramtrucks.com. Guts, glory, Ram/notebook. We are back here on the box score. Guys, Dakota Fanning Prukop is living the American dream. He's playing quarterback at Montana State, heading off to Oregon. He's vacationing in Hawaii, and now he gets to call into the Dan Patrick Show today. So pretty complete there. Paulie, you love all things Montana. Would you have stayed in Montana or headed over to Oregon if you were Prukop?
Wow, that's a tough question. You know what? The guy wants to play pro football, and as nice as a place Bozeman is and a nice team they have, he would have to throw for 1,000,000 yards at Montana State to get a sniff of the NFL. I think, I mean, it's hard, you know, they do notice these guys. Not like
they do.
The scouts do notice the
Tony
one
Romo, who pointed out today.
But if he leads Oregon to an 11-1 record, they can't ignore him.
But what if he doesn't?
Then he's done.
What if he
Vernon Adams?
What if he goes there on a way bigger stage and completely fails?
I think it's like it is a crapshoot. But if he happens to lead them to the Final Four and he plays well next year, there's no way he doesn't get a look-see from the NFL.
I read an incredible stat, by the way. You know, you think Alabama, a good chance for going pro. There hasn't been an Alabama quarterback to win an NFL game since Scott Rutledge in 1987. And A.J. McCarron's going to. Yeah, A.J. McCarron. So Alabama and Oregon's not exactly an NFL.
And I wonder if that's cyclical. Like when recruits see that, and then they look at Alabama like, I'm not going there. Nobody there gets drafted, so I'm not going to go there.
Maybe our guy J. Alfred Prufrock thought the same thing.
J. Alfred, yeah. But then you look at LSU. If I'm a defensive back in high school, I'm going right to LSU because if I could crack the starting lineup, I'm going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds.
T.S. Eliot reference it. Yeah.
I don't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, and Brody Croy would back you up on those Alabama quarterbacks.
J. Alfred.
Well, Prukop talked about the process it takes to switch schools prior to your senior year.
I had to Google it.
There's a whole process you go through, and my athletic director, Peter Fields, really helped me through the whole process. I think we handled it the right way, and it started off, getting a contact release form, and basically, you put the schools on there, and you throw it out there, and our athletic department would send it out to other schools' athletic departments and get in contact with the coaches, and they, would get back in touch pretty quick, and Oregon got in touch the fastest.
Yeah, man, good for him. That's pretty awesome. Those are some heavy hitter schools he had on there that he got to say no to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what does that say, though? I mean, like, Michigan is such a traditional, school that, like, everybody wants to go to. Alabama's obviously a powerhouse, but he chose Oregon.
Oregon's pretty good, too.
Yeah. But they still feel like a new school.
Yeah. I bet when you walk and see those facilities, and it feels like a Nike town.
Yeah.
I don't know how you turn that down. It's just so glitzy looking.
Get to wear all fancy uniforms.
Also, he played up in that part of the country, maybe.
True. Yeah.
Going from Montana to Alabama, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
Todd, if you were set back in time to your college days and you had to switch a school prior to your senior year, where would you have gone?
Brooklyn College?
I definitely would have gone away to school instead of living in my parents' apartment trying to sneak girls in on the occasion that happened.
Which one?
Susie Bender.
Paulie has said a lot of great things about Ole Miss. I don't know if I'd be ready to go from Brooklyn, never having gotten out of the Northeast except for Florida, to end up in Mississippi. And I would probably want to go
Arizona State.
Maybe some party school. I think
Dude, with that body back then?
Especially Arizona State after we did that T Frizzle video with the.
Wait, were you ripped by the time you were 21, 22? When did that start to go away?
I started working out around like 16, 17, and I think through my maybe to late 20s. I was
3 weeks after you met Jen, you called it?
Yeah, I was like, all right, she's the one.
So wait, did you look like a ripped Hasselhoff when you were in college? Because you could have killed it in Arizona.
Yeah, I think that was like age 19 or something like that.
Dude, you would have dominated a warm weather school.
Nobody wears shirts.
I liked walking around with no shirt on.
What are you doing, man?
Thinking who I was with the puka shell.
I really wish, if I had a time machine, I would bypass it for me and give you my ride and send you to Arizona State in 1988.
Arizona State would have been a good time.
But it's not like the dude went to LA and he was still that young Adonis figure.
But he was he was working on trying to get,
That's true.
So, like, what? I don't understand what the problem. Like, there's beaches there and, like, lots of gorgeous.
Well, Fritzy doesn't. All right. Fritzy does not party, per se. And he didn't. I don't think he partied back then, as far as I know. And I think if you would have gone to a bar, I think if you would have gone to one time out to the bars in college, it would have helped.
But the Boot Barn story from San Bernardino does show how misguided he was.
To recap, that Fritzy went to.
You were clearly like you went down the wrong.
No, I had recently broken up with my girlfriend. We were doing a long distance relationship when I moved out to LA, and then next thing I knew, I was getting really into country music. Maybe because it was just a lot of depressing, twangy songs. I bought a cowboy hat and boots and the whole thing.
I spent $814.
I definitely spent at least $700 on like a George Strait collection hat and lizard skin boots and stuff. And I went to this place called Denim and Diamonds where these cute little country girls were wearing their little jean shorts and doing the boot scoot boogie, and they're doing these little dances. I knew nothing about the. I didn't know how to dance. Or
if you would say that outfit, did it ever come through for you?
Not only that, but it was even worse because I decided to wear that whole getup on a flight from LAX to JFK just to get my family's reaction. They were going to pick me up at the airport. And on the plane, I'm sitting next to a woman that said, "Are you a real cowboy?" or something like that, she said to me. And I said, "No, and I didn't know what to say."
I'm a nevish kid.
I said, "No," I said something like, "No, I just like the clothes. I like the outfit." And then she kind of just gave me this disapproving look of like, it's basically a Halloween costume, and this is when you're flying across the country wearing this getup. You're not a cowboy.
I would give $100 to interview her.
Are you a real cowboy?
You're not going on the Today. You're not flying to do the Today Show and perform country songs or helping light the tree at Rockefeller Center. Singing country. It's like, why would you be dressed like that? And it was just and I got some other looks too because there's a lot of New Yorkers and they don't see.
Why would you get a lot of looks dressing up as a cowboy at JFK?
It was a little bizarre. It was a little bizarre.
Jeans tucked into your boots.
And it was a red eye, so everyone's
Did you have a polo? Was there a polo situation?
I had a belt buckle that said T on it for like Texas Todd.
Any picture? Any picture?
I'll have to look, but I have the whole getup and the looks I got.
Now you've brought some stuff in before. Have you ever brought the entire outfit in before?
Maybe not.
Would you wear that to Dan's Christmas party if I paid you?
I'll chip in.
I have to look for it. But I was very proud of that.
If that's what's going to replace the chunky oatmeal sweater,
I'm down.
I'm in. Texas Todd's showing up? Hell yeah.
Texas Todd.
That woman working there, she saw me coming, that woman at the boot barn. Oh, you got to get the George Strait hat with the lizard skin boots and the personalized belt buckle.
Yeah, and the brush popper and the jeans.
She had the last laugh.
I'm heading out to Sheep's Head Bay to wrangle some cattle and some knishes. All right, stay with us. We are going to look into the past, but not as graphically as we just did. Welcome back to the Box Score. 'Tis the season, NHL, NFL, and NBA, and of course, the sport of getting out of your niece's Christmas pageant. Sorry, Bailey. But with all this history, we certainly have some stories have stacked up over the years and years and years. So let's do this. This week in sports history, it's going to be a quiz. Row versus row.
Or claws.
Or claws.
All right, buddy.
Let's do this.
Back row.
Claws or claws.
This week in 1973 saw which NFL running back run for the first 2,000-yard season in league history?
That's easy. I just mentioned him as the anti-sportsman of the year.
Going OJ?
O.J. Simpson.
Was it Double Murder Simpson?
You're in denial.
Well done, gentlemen.
Not really sure how it says it was right, but it works for me.
This week in 1980 saw the New York Yankees sign the biggest player contract ever for 10 years, $15 million. Who was the player?
I think I have it. Can I try it? You're a Yankee guy, so.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, man.
I'm almost sure of it.
Way later than that. All right, yeah, give it a shot.
Dave Winfield.
The guy who dated Robin Givens' mom. Is he right?
You know how I feel about Yankees-related trivia and Paulie.
Well done. Back row, December 18th, 1988. This week in 1988 saw the Seattle Seahawks win their first ever division title game. Who was the Seahawks Pro Bowl quarterback that season?
Gotta be Jim.
What year?
Yeah.
1988.
Jim Zorn.
Number 10. Zone to Largent.
They think it's Zorn.
You just fumbled at the one. I thought you were
Can we try to steal?
Oh, Dave Craig.
Dave Craig. Dan Dornick.
Dave Craig.
Craig is probably the one.
Yeah.
Dave Craig.
Dave Craig, yes.
Dave Craig, but we got to see that graphic. Damn it.
That's really the
Good job,
I
Todd.
thought it was Jim Zorn, too. I guess Zorn was before
That was a
me.
win for everybody.
Zorn maybe was early 80s then.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good
Front
question.
row. Which brand new NBA team won its first game this week in 1988 after losing their first 17 games?
1988. Hornets?
Yeah. Yep.
Hornets?
Is it the Hornets? Maybe?
You just fumbled at the one. I thought
I
you
guess
were
Heat or
in
Magic.
Fuego.
Heat.
In Fuego. In
Heat.
Fuego.
Magic is a
Magic.
one.
Nick Anderson.
Yeah. The Heat. The Heat or the Heat?
Heat.
The Heat is...
Back row.
Heat or the Heat.
This week in 1925 saw the first hockey game at Madison Square Garden between the Montreal Canadiens and the original NHL team from New York. What were they named?
Ooh, they weren't always the Rangers.
I thought the Rangers were original
question?
6.
You're a New Yorker, 50.
Isn't that why they called the originals? And maybe it's a trick
You know,
question.
back in the day, they used to call every team in the city the same thing. Like they would have been the Yankees, maybe, but let's just say the Rangers.
Okay, we're going to think you're trying to trick us and that they were always the New York Rangers.
They think we're trying to trick them and that they were always the New York Rangers.
You just fumbled at the 1. I thought you were in Fuego. In Fuego.
What the hell is that?
Sorry, we were looking for the Lee Greenwood song, Americans. Americans.
New York Americans?
Yes. Front row.
Everywhere like such as.
Yeah, as Iraq and the Iran.
U.S. Americans.
Like such as. Not everyone has maps.
Miss Team Carolina. Your next question. Front row this week in 1980 saw NBC broadcast a Jets-Dolphins game without what key broadcast ingredient?
No announcers, no play-by-play, no color commentary.
They think it's no play-by-play, no color commentary.
It started out with a catch, and then it ended up like a catch. It was only a catch.
Wish I had that.
And congratulations, the winning row with the walk-off. It's Paulie and the front row.
Nice job.
Applause abounds.
Thank you. Well done.
And just a smattering over there on the right. All right, don't go away. We're going back to school with Paul Pabst. But first, this is the box score. We're taking a break to remind you that the Ram Heavy Duty, with its best-in-class towing, torque, and horsepower, doesn't need an education, doesn't need a degree. It's good enough for the high school education. It's good enough for Sissy SpaceX dad and coal miner's daughter. All right, Guts, Glory, Ram. We're closing up shop here in the box score. Guys, I realize the DP show isn't your entire life. You have plenty of stuff going on the side. Over at Sacred Heart University, Paulie, you're known as Professor Pabst. I mean, McLovin, how would you have done studying under Professor Pabst?
You know, I think I would have done very well because the topic is pretty darn entertaining. If I was in college, I would sign up for that class.
Yeah, he would do well. It's a lot. If you know sports, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, if you missed class yesterday's, no worries, we got you covered. Paulie led a Sportscaster draft for the class. Now, Scott Van Pelt, SVP, went first. Paulie, where was Dan taken, and was it a complete case of ass-kissery when they did?
No, I asked them to be very objective. I don't want them ever kissing butt of the Dan Patrick show. It's very transparent. So we split the class in half, I think 10 and 10, and they were trying to develop their own sports network, and then we had like a fantasy draft. And Van Pelt, now what you want to do is you want to get someone who's star power and versatile, who could do multiple things. Van Pelt went first. Mike Tirico went second, which I think is a good pick because he could call a truckload of play-by-play for you. I think Dan was the 5th overall draft pick. John Gruden went high. Schefter went up high. Beadle went high. Strahan went high, and that's a guy who's kind of like sports and not sports. So there's a lot of star power. Bob Costas went low in the draft, and one of the reasons given was they thought because he's a little bit older, he doesn't have as many years left with it. But I even told him, I go, you know what? He's a superstar right now. I was surprised that he went a little lower.
Couple questions. Bill Simmons?
Bill Simmons went about 12th, 13th pick in the draft. I thought it was a great pick.
Yeah, but what? Any behind-the-scenes guys? Any producers on there? Like
no producers.
John Skipper, Mark Shapiro, Adam.
No, it was just on-air people. Like Tony Reale went, Dan.
Tony Reale went.
Yeah, because young, got a lot of future. You could do a lot with the guy. Yeah. John Gruden, of course. Even Dick Vitale went because the kid said, you know what? He's still a star now, and my college basketball is legitimized instantly. A couple other people, Kevin Harlan, the great play-by-play man.
Yes.
Rachel Nichols, Jalen Rose, Collinsworth, so forth.
Seton, take Dan and SVP off the list. Who are you going with?
Number 1 overall pick.
It's hard to not take Costas. He's pretty sure thing.
Sorry, you mind if I jump in? There's a certain guy, I mean, like, if you really want, like, versatility, we're talking 10, 11 teams. Kawakami is a guy you want on your team. You can cover University of California football, Jared Goff.
Pac-12.
Stanford football, Pac-12 volleyball.
We could have gotten the reaction to, what's his name, the Dakota Prukop.
Yeah.
We could have gotten the Stanford reaction of that today.
That's Kawakami country right there. Yeah, I think people screwed this one up big time.
KK, Kawakami country.
Kawakami country.
Yeah, that's if they were De La Salle's playing some football. Fritzy,
he didn't
hopefully
get drafted.
you have Kawakami on there tomorrow. Yes, sir? Maybe?
We don't have Tim Kawakami. We have Ray Rice, former Ravens running back, joining us here in the Milford Man Cave. And we'll catch up with Rodney Harrison as well on Thursday.
I'm glad you didn't have to stretch out with the description of Ray Rice. I just wouldn't want to imagine the other descriptions.
Yes, I left it at that. We'll former Ravens running back, try to get back in the league. He will get back with Dan Patrick tomorrow.
Yes, brevity is the father of clarity. We are back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Podcast is available on iTunes or at podcast1.com. Cheers, everyone.
I don't know a lot about sports, but I can drink a lot of beer.
My motto is simple. C's get degrees.
Need a long, inappropriate hug? I'm your man.
I think I'm smarter than you, because I probably am.
Hey, thanks for watching the box score. Holy cow!